Hey, welcome everyone to the Common Council's Human Resource and Human Rights Committee. Today is Tuesday, April 23rd. We will be discussing amendments to Ordinance 94119, the Living Wage Ordinance. Present are committee members Conti, Johnson, and Robinson. Council members Hoey, Anani, and Fahey are also here, along with council staff. There will be public comment for this meeting, and with that, since Councilmember Conti's put together the amendment, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So the amendments are meant to clarify and I think reinvigorate the living wage ordinance and hopefully make it a little bit more forceful in terms of implementation and oversight. It doesn't change the applicability or who's covered. And I think part of it is just to make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. So just to go over the main provisions, on the first one, subsection C, that new language, part of that is just taking language that's in paragraph 3 and moving it to paragraph 2 where it probably more appropriately belongs. But the operable provision is providing, so right now, the living wage amount was established in the ordinance when this was first adopted back in, what was the year? 2006. And it was supposed to be adjusted annually, but there's no provision as to who's responsible, who does it, or what happens with it. So part of this language provides that the Commissioner of Administrative Services is responsible for determining the amount of the annual increases, and that they be publicly posted and kept on file within the Office of City Clerk. Went with Administrative Services because that's where the budget office is, and they're the ones that are most appropriate for making those determinations. So that's the first thing. It provides a mechanism, a standard, and a provision that they be publicly posted and on file in the city clerk's office, so anybody who wants to know what the current living wage number is or amount is, they can easily find it. The next amendment is on paragraph or subsection F, which deals with the Compliance Committee. So right now, the Compliance Committee is appointed by the mayor, subject to confirmation by the council. This doesn't make a change in that, but it does add the chair of the Common Council Standing Committee that has jurisdiction over human resources, i.e. this committee, as an ex officio member. And that's intended to provide a direct, consistent relationship between this committee, which has oversight, and the living wage ordinance and its implementation, so that there's consistency, and that it's intended to strengthen, our oversight. And I will note that prior to this, Kathy was appointed by the mayor to the previous Living Wage Compliance Committee when she chaired the Human Resources Committee. So it makes sense that we continue that way, and this just puts that in statute. It would increase the committee by 1 to accommodate the chair, simply because we can't take away one of the mayor's appointments without going through a public referendum process. The other part of that amendment also provides that the Living Wage Committee would meet at least quarterly, so that there is some mechanism so that we know the committee is meeting. They are exercising oversight, they know what's going on, and that there's a current provision that there be an annual review of the law and recommendations. This strengthens that by providing that the committee's that annual review, in effect, is a report that would be submitted to the council and the mayor annually, so that we would actually get something from the compliance committee in terms of oversight. And then the last amendment, G, it adds a new subsection G. So right now, certain service contracts are required to have a living wage component if they qualify. This would provide that on a quarterly basis, that the Commissioner of Administrative Services would report to us, to the mayor and the council and the Living Wage Compliance Committee, on the number of service contracts entered into containing a living wage clause and the summary of the terms. So right now, we don't know what contracts may have been entered into with a living wage clause. So this would provide a mechanism where we get that information on a quarterly basis. In some quarters, it might be no contracts were entered into, but it would provide a quarterly report so that we at least know what exactly is happening and what contracts are being entered into that includes the a living wage clause. So those are the amendments. As I said, it's meant to clarify, strengthen, and also strengthen our oversight of how the ordinance is implemented.
Okay. Any questions?
Well, Richard, I was looking at it and I'm just sitting here thinking about the quarterly. You think it's excessive that you need quarterly?
Well, I think, yeah, that,
Ambitious.
wait, I'm sorry, you think it's too much, or?
I'm worried that it's too much, that it won't happen at all. And I'm just, what happens if it doesn't meet the committee? I mean, you don't get, how do we enforce it, I guess?
Well, I was thinking about that also in terms of the quarterly. Right now,
Enforcement, wouldn't it be like,
Well, I can
well,
respond
why don't you
to
talk
that.
about your experience,
When
Kathy?
When we were meeting on a very regular basis, it was more than quarterly. And, but we did a lot of work on this. We had a public forum and so on. And I thought that at first when I read it might be excessive for that have that expectation. But, you can set those guidelines and then the committee, there may be periods where they're doing more work and then other periods where they're doing less. So, I don't know. You can set that standard.
Keep it quarterly.
I mean, there's no enforcement.
I mean, well, yes, no,
Other than someone coming to say, what's the living wage?
Yeah. Well, I think the big thing is to get the number from 2000, remember the last time it was adjusted.
now I think, because I did,
You did.
subsequent that, I got from Dave Gallen a spreadsheet, which did indicate the adjustments that were made over the years, which I did forward on to,
You did,
Okay.
I didn't.
okay. But it did show that there was something happening as far as making those adjustments. So someone was doing it. I'm not sure if it was probably the budget office, because they're the ones that handle this kind of data. But this would provide now that also that it be posted and that it be on file in the clerk's
I
office.
think there was a period too when we were active,
Yeah.
that we met with Corporation Counsel's office and asked them to take a look at it and update it. So
Yeah.
that could have been during that period. But now having this as a responsibility for the Commissioner of Administrative Services, maybe we can it'll happen more regularly.
Does anybody know when the CPI number comes out? Do that-
It's an annual number. I'm not sure. I don't remember if.
In around July. isn't it?
Yeah. So it's
important, I think, to have the meetings set up that, especially if that number comes out.
yeah, it's July, because that's what the ordinance also has. It's July 1, pretty much. And the next step, if we adopt these, next step is then to work to get the mayor to actually appoint a new committee, because I think,
It fell off.
yeah.
The only other thing I was going to mention was, did you want someone from Human Resources, like the director, to be an ex officio member?
I think that was one of the appointments that were previously made.
No.
Okay. I don't want
On
to,
the committee, you mean? No.
yeah. I didn't want to increase the committee necessarily, and I would have, if we could have, may have made the,
Well, David
Council
Gallen
member.
from Mayor's Office met with us regularly.
yeah.
So maybe have a conversation with the mayor's office and
Yeah,
have
in
her
terms of
make her
who
one of
should
her
be,
folks
who were the,
person.
not even remind members, who were the last appointees that were on that committee?
Anita Fair, Bernie Mulligan, and, Then there were.
There was someone
another
from,
individual who didn't attend.
Corey,
Yes, Corey did it. He
Corey,
was-
not
that's
Corey
right.
Ellis,
Oh,
different
you're
Corey.
right.
It was Corey,
He was from.
Human Resources, yes.
Mhm. That's right, I forgot about that.
And then
there
you-
was
and
another
then-
gentleman who did not ever attend.
And we had talked
Yes.
about, we can make a recommendation,
Yes.
right? So, I'd like to see somebody
Funding
from the labor,
I don't know if it's
area
funding.
labor.
It's in the,
I mean, it's not, yeah, in terms of the appointment,
All the mayor's appointees, right?
yeah. This should include organized labor, covered employers, other groups interested in wages, so,
And that was added with the chair of the human resources.
no.
Is there a way we could,
I don't think there's a problem in having that sheet appoint someone from organized labor.
can we just add one from the council, thank you? Or-
We can't take away one of her appointments simply because it's, you know, a referendum, you have to go through a whole process. I don't think it'll be a problem in the mayor appointing someone, that's been the case
I'd
in the
like to
past.
see something like the labor council.
Yeah.
And maybe they can,
Yeah.
they know better who's big in the union movement. They can just, make a recommendation
Yeah.
to us, and we can just pass it on. So it's really not a lot of work.
Yeah, I do have a question. Make sure everybody's finished.
Sure.
I have a question as it relates to FMLA. How does this fit
Family
into
medical
this?
leave?
Yeah.
I don't know that it
Does
would.
that state FMLA?
Are you talking
Does
about
that apply here?
EFL or FMLA?
Say again?
The federal or the state?
The state or?
what is that again? I'm sorry. I'm not,
Family medical leave?
Leave Act.
I don't know how that would.
So
fit
the
if we're
city
aware.
of Albany is exempt from paid family leave under the state of New York. There is a clause in that act that was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor that public entities like the city have the ability to opt in, but they don't have to choose to do so. So we, as the city of Albany, have chosen not to do that. However, there is the Federal Family and Medical Leave Act, which is an unpaid leave. You get to take 12 weeks in the course of 12 months. And there's certain circumstances under which you would be eligible for that. But that is blanket over every employee across the country.
Okay.
So that is still there.
Right, okay, now you said that the city opted out of the paid family leave?
Yes, the state's Paid Family Leave Act.
Quick question, Richard. As it relates to like enforcement, is there a way that we can have like the chief financial officer kind of look at these type of,
Who? The chief?
yeah, the auditor for the city of Oakland, just kind of look at and like enforcing and just making sure that we're in compliance? instead of-
Yeah, I mean, the auditor has that authority currently.
Regardless, right? It's just audit.
Yeah.
and there's other aspects of the ordinance that can be looked at for sure. Richard focused on a couple areas.
Yeah, I was just looking
For
at
example,
issues.
one of the criticisms is that the health benefits isn't defined in the ordinance at all. How they came up with 70%, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was done,
So
Along-
there's other things that can be looked at.
right. And that's part of what the compliance committee would be doing in terms of looking at the ordinance and making recommendations.
And questions as to what kind of contracts are we talking about? Right now, it's contracts over 20, I think, right?
It's service contracts,
There's 30 and 20, so it
over, yeah,
depends.
at least
So-
20,000.
One of the things the compliance committee was looking at, should they be contracts over 10, that we have a broadness? Should it include concessions that the city has?
Right.
Should it include, the big discussion about Mohawk ambulance?
Yeah, all candidates. What would that consider as?
I'm not sure, to be honest with
category?
you. That would be something we'd have to look at.
So those are, I mean, the intent here is just to reiterate, get this process going again, get the compliance committee going again, and then those are, issues that the compliance committee can then begin to look at again as far as the applicability and if there are changes that we'd like to look at and make.
Like, I don't think, one of the big issues too was some of our professional contracts and whether they should be subject to this, because you know how we contract out for legal services and things like that. I don't
Most
think-
of which probably,
Hmm?
most of which, if not all, those types of contracts probably are probably would meet the standards already, but I don't know.
Now, is there a process for an employee to file some type of grievance if this isn't
Let's see, there is,
enforced?
I think there was some provision in here, because we're looking at the, there is a section on employer responsibility, compliance, and sanctions. So every proposal or application for a service contract shall include a written commitment by the applicant to pay all covered employees the living wage as defined, includes a list of job titles and wage levels of all covered employees in each of the years in which the contract is enforced. Covered employees shall provide to the city publicly available annual reports of job titles and wage rates of covered employees during the term of the contract. There is a provision also, yeah, that's not, I didn't, you only have the sections that I was amending. There's another section that a covered employee who believes that his or her employer is not complying with the requirements of this is in subsection D. I'm looking at paragraph 3, where it says a covered employee who believes that his or her employer is not complying with the requirements of this section has the right to file a complaint with the city. Complaints by covered employees of alleged violations shall be made within 1 year of the date of the violation and shall be investigated promptly by the city. Written and oral statements made by covered employee shall be treated as confidential and shall not be disclosed to the covered employer or beneficiary without the consent of the employee. While protection of the employee's confidentiality shall be a priority for the city, this provision shall not prevent the city from informing the covered employer of the name of the covered employee and the basis of the complaint in order to access information necessary to investigate the complaint.
All right.
So there are provisions in there, and they're going further without reading the whole thing.
Can I look at a permanent amendment with the quarterly reports?
Yeah.
Is there a way that we could put like report to the mayor, the county council, if we add like maybe like the treasurer's office and the auditor's office? Like to have. Because those departments kind of essentially deal with the finances of the city and make sure that meet compliance.
But so I think you just have to recall that these are dealing with contracts that may be private employers. So it's more or less the enforcement factor comes where the city can remove the contract that they've entered into with them.
Yes.
So
We typically remove contracts, right? The city has entered into.
that would be the law department.
Gotcha. So maybe we might add them too. The quarterly report, make sure they're available in the law department.
Well, actually, the law department enters into contracts, or process contracts, so they're the ones really that would be processing the information that would be reported to us.
I just want to make sure that when a report comes in front of us, it's not just sitting there, but it hasn't been verified information.
Say it again, sorry.
For the quarterly report, I just want to make sure that the information, the report that's presented to us, that individuals who have like ornament abilities are able to actually verify the report outside of just giving us the report and us council members are looking through it.
Verify the report.
The information in the report?
Yeah, the information in the quarterly report. I just want to make sure that it's being thoroughly, because this is a serious matter, and I think that the reason why many people are involved right now is
So,
because of.
All right, so what do you mean by verify the
I think
information?
it's really important that we could get someone who could actually have that capability of actually the ordinary report that's going to be presented to us and the mayor's office. And so just asking the individuals who are on the report, audit. So this will come like a quarterly report.
These are a report of contracts that have been entered into.
So what I'm saying is that if those contracts that have been entered as relates to like enforcement of those contracts, I don't think it would hurt to add another set of eyes on to the quarterly report. If you can
But are you asking that if an employee comes to the city and says, you have a contract with my employer and my employer is not paying me a living wage, and it sounds like you're concerned about the city's their investigation into that claim and whether or not they should be continuing to carry out that contract with that said entity because they may be underpaying all of their employees.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
I would think that, you know, we're talking about equity. You know, we have an equity agenda. It would be something that would support that. It's for too long, people have been able to say one thing and do another thing. So without accountability, rules kind of really mean nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And no offense, and just to add to what he's saying, no offense to administrative services, but commissioner, but I believe that individual also works for the mayor. And I'm saying that to have an independent voice in the quarterly report when the report is being given, that would be great.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is that what kind of report you're looking for is more detailed than what this is reporting to you on. This is just going to be reporting to you on the contract.
Sound like it.
That's what this is.
That is just empty. Yeah.
So you want to add,
Yeah.
Checks and balances.
Yeah, where it says-
Somehow.
Quarterly based report to the mayor or county council, the city auditor, or
on the number of service contracts entered to.
I don't have a problem adding in the auditor and the treasurer as far as receiving reports. Is that what you're?
yeah,
That's fine.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I have one more. Now, who sits on the committee, what is it, the compliance committee?
Richard, what did you say that like 20 minutes ago? Like, you got me.
What?
Somebody.
What did I say?
I said, what you said that like 20 minutes ago.
I don't think he
Well, I was-
understood you. because I
Yeah, I'm
didn't
trying to
understand
pull out
exactly
what you weren't, you didn't quite understand what you're saying, what you wanted. I thought that's what you wanted, but then you seem to be going off on tangents.
I think there should be on the compliance committee someone from the Human Rights Commission.
Well,
To making sure that there is a checks and balance as far as.
I mean, if the mayor, the compliance committee right now is appointed by the mayor, subject to confirmation by the council, so we have to vote on who the appointees are and approve them.
Right, but can we
The
also?
last time it was from, Corey was from,
Administration.
yeah, but he was EEO and officer.
Yep.
Yeah, which would make sense, that that person be one of the people on there.
Those are, I mean, I know what you're getting at with that, but those are volunteer positions serving on the commission. On these types of things, you really want to spread the wealth to give other citizens the opportunity to serve.
Mhm. But could we also?
So you'd have this, someone serving on the Human Rights Commission, and then also serving on living wage.
Okay.
That would be my only thought.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just think that, the Human Rights Commission should be aware of any issues or violations that any of the contractors may be in violation of. And my concern is that if it's not reported to the Human Rights Commission, which is kind of a separate independent body from the city, right? Then they're kind of left in the dark about if there are any violations with the contract.
So essentially, the quarterly report, we would like to add the Human Rights Commission to that.
We can do that. All right.
That would be
Because in terms of adding a member to, they're the mayor's appointee, so we can't direct
So
the mayor who to put on
But
it.
we can also add them as an ex officio member.
Subsection G.
We can also
think it-
add them as an ex officio member.
That's why I brought in the chair of this committee, so there was some be direct oversight from the council.
Should cover.
Okay, good.
And that's why we did it that way.
So in the quarterly reports, I think Human Rights Commission.
You want to just add the chair or just?
I would suggest the chair.
Just the chair.
Sure. Okay.
Okay, any further discussion?
Can we talk about, I'm confused about in C, section 2, where you talk about 1025 and 1191.
C, hold on a second. C section, okay, what was the question?
Well, these numbers aren't living wage numbers, right? Is this what we're starting from, or is this?
No, yeah, that, when this was, I didn't change that. When this was established back in 2006, that was the number that was set with the requirement that it be annually adjusted. So the current number is not that number. The current number is a higher number, which is in the spreadsheet that I sent out earlier.
Okay, now is there any way we can get that, you know, that this is going to be, there's nowhere in here that we're going to adjust it.
Yes, it is.
Is there, or did I miss?
Yeah, that's what the current law says, but, so that's the base number. And even if we update it to a current number, that will still be a base number that will always change.
No, I understand, but
So it says the amount of living wage shall be increased
Shall be adjusted
annually.
every July 1st thereafter.
Yeah. And then it adds in, that will now also be publicly posted and kept on file in the clerk's office.
And I understand that, but my concern is, nowhere in here does it say this is the base number from 2006. Or is
It goes-
Are we assuming that? And I get worried when I...
No, because it's the number that was when the ordinance was adopted. Back in 2006, that was the base number.
But is there any way we can just put a little note in here that these numbers are the base numbers from 2006? Just that anybody reading this legislation would understand without having to dig around a lot?
Yep, okay, I'll add something in.
Right, it made sense back then, maybe because it refers to the effective date of the section, which was back then. What was that?
Is that legal?
Well, yeah, it does actually, because I added in, Kelly just reminded me, I added in that the living wage shall be calculated on an hourly basis, and then I added in on the effective date of this section, 1025, et cetera. So the effective date of was the 2006 number.
Okay, good. So somebody reading this...
Yeah. Okay.
Now, are there any prohibitions, say if a contractor is in multiple violations on multiple times of a contract? Do we just say we're not going to do business with them anymore, or do we just fine them and keep it moving? Are they blacklisted?
For non-compliance. Maybe we did need that. Doesn't say it on there.
There's nothing specific here, but
I think
it's not likely that we continually enter into a service contract with a employer that continually is found in violation.
That's like,
Where would one find the current list of contracts right now? The law department?
Well, that's, I think, the issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're trying to put this in here in terms of, have a process where we get a listing. I think the law department probably has them, but I don't know that there's any compiled list that we can go to.
Or what was that?
A listing of current contracts.
They do keep a list of the contracts.
Yeah, but I know when I had this, Marissa expressed some concern about new reporting requirements, and I said, this is a list that you should already have.
It wasn't easy for them to pull it up, but they did,
All right.
We had to sit down, I sat down with John Riley, and he came up with a list of all the contracts.
So you see, it's not, there's
So
no,
it has to be more formalized, and
this is what it does, it tries to formalize that process.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, so those things that you mentioned are in here, and they do, they might need refinement. We should probably get a copy of this. If you want a copy of the city, this is the ordinance, yep, if you want to get a copy of that. you
Yeah,
can have
that's exactly the same, just a different font. Okay, so if we're done with discussion, I'd like to,
Actually, that's the whole ordinance, current ordinance. You can have that.
I'd like to open up public comment. Oh, okay.
I just wanted to bring it to your attention that I did have a conversation with Chiquita and in reference to my follow-up regarding the audit, the Wade Center, and what she shared was that they're looking to fill a 3-bid process. I guess they have to have.
Yeah, you have to have three, right,
So
RFP process.
I should be, I'll be expecting to hear something soon from them.
What was this?
For when I was talking to Steve Longo in regards to the Wade Center.
There is a difference.
This wouldn't apply.
It's separate, it's just human rights and human resources and human rights and yes.
Thank you for that information, though. Good. All right, so with that, I'll open up public comment. Susan Du Bois. Have you seen?
I'll stand up.
Okay,
You're better. My name is Susan Du Bois. I live at 24 Jeanette Street in Albany, and I'm active in the Solidarity Committee, although I'm not here speaking on their behalf formally, speaking as an individual. And I'm just glad to see that the committee and the council is looking at this and considering updating the ordinance and reactivating the committee, because I think it's an important function, and I'm glad to see that you're working on it. So thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any specific comments on changes or anything like that, just sort of a general comment on, I'm glad to see it's become active again. Yes?
I just have a question. If there's someone that you would like to recommend to see on this committee, is there somebody that you might have that served well on this committee that you might be able to send information to?
Nobody I could recommend at the moment, although I think if I recall correctly, Fred Pfeiffer spoke at the council meeting a meeting or two ago, and I think he may have said he was willing to serve on it if the committee was interested in having him. Yeah. I don't have anybody to formally recommend, though, and I'm just saying what my recollection is of what Fred said. So.
If he said that, no. I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with no further comments or discussion, a motion to move this on to the council?
And so with amendments, so the amendments I'm going to make, on the quarterly reports, and who gets them, I'm going to add the auditor, the treasurer, and the chair of the Human Rights Commission.
So is that your motion?
So I'll then make a motion to report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye?
Okay, good. That passes. All right. Motion
Thank
to
you.
adjourn.
Yeah.